Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fun Fridays, where we learn all about life on the farm and in the countryside. My name is Amy, and you're all very welcome to the first edition of our webinar series. So, just having a quick look at the participants there, and I just want to give a few shout outs. So, I want to say hello to All Saints National School. I know that they have participated quite a lot in our incredible edibles programs. And also, I actually went to All Saints National School all those years ago. So, hello to everyone from All Saints. I also want to give a shout out to Castleknock National School. Who else do I see? Lots and lots of people joining. Mrs. Barry's third class. Hello, everyone. You're welcome. Mrs. Bennett's fifth class is here. So we're just going to wait a moment or so while other people join, and then we'll get started. Oh, hello to Skull Breeda's fourth class. Hello, everyone. And Midfield National School in Mayo. Hello, everybody. You're welcome. Now, just while we are waiting, I just want to introduce you, if you're not already familiar, to our dig-in books. So these are our dig-in books, which the webinars are based on, and all of our lesson plans, activities, and worksheets are available to download from the Agri Aware website. So if your teacher chooses, they can go on there, they can download the lesson plans, all of the activity sheets, or you yourself at home can get a grown-up to help you to download those worksheets. So all available from our Agri Aware website. And just maybe one more shout out. Hello to Tippy Toes Play School. Hello, everyone. Now I think we're going to get started, so we'll keep ourselves all on track. So I'm just going to share my screen for the beginning, and we'll go through a presentation. And then afterwards, I will give you a rundown of what our webinar outlines for today. Now, here we go. So today's episode is all about dairy production. So how this is going to work, I'm going to give you a short outline. So we are going to go through an introduction to the topic of dairy. I have an interactive video on the story of milk. I will be showing you a quick and easy banana milkshake recipe. So some of you might have the resources ready in class to do today. Alternatively, you can do this at home yourself. It's a very simple recipe, or perhaps your teacher would like to do it maybe next week in school. And then the final thing is going to be the quiz challenger question. So I will be revealing the first question for the competition to win a trip to Dublin Zoo. The first one will be at the end of today's webinar, and there will be one more at the end of every single episode throughout the webinar series. So the competition won't actually open until the 10th of December. So we have lots of time to get through the material before the competition opens. Now, I just want to start our introduction into dairy by bringing your attention to our most famous dairy animal, particularly in Ireland, and that is, of course, the cow. So I've got two examples of some breeds here. So the first one here, the paler color, is a Charolais. These are actually a beef animal breed. So they are not usually used for dairy production, but they do, of course, produce milk because all cows produce milk to feed their calves. So the Charolais, remember, this is for beef. And then when we look over to the right to our black and white cow, this is one of the most famous milking cows, I'm sure, in Ireland. This is a Holstein breed, probably familiar to a lot of you. Either you've seen them in the countryside, maybe you have them on your farm at home. But with the Holstein, this famous black and white cow, it has these lovely udders here and the teeth down below, and this is where the milk is stored, and this is where we extract the milk from. So cows are the most famous in Ireland, but we do have a few other dairy animals that produce milk across the world and also within Ireland. So I'm going to introduce you to a few of them now. So this one up the top here, so it looks relatively similar to a cow, but you'll notice it has these big horns here, and they're actually quite a bit larger than your normal cow. This animal is also called a cow, but it is a buffalo. So if we think of the word buffalo, you might automatically think of buffalo mozzarella, which is actually a dairy product produced from the milk of buffaloes. So that's a buffalo there. Then, of course, we have our sheep here. So a female sheep is called a ewe. She produces milk to feed her lambs, and she also produces milk that can then be processed to feed people. And then, of course, we have goats. They also produce milk to feed their kids, which are their babies. And I'd say a lot of you are familiar with goat's cheese. Some people love it, some people don't like it so much, but goats do, of course, also produce milk to feed their babies. And then this one up the top here that maybe you're less familiar with that actually can sometimes be farmed to produce milk are camels. It's not common across the entire world, and we don't typically farm camels to produce milk in Ireland, but it is quite common in other parts of the world, such as some countries on the African continent, some countries across Europe as well will actually farm camels to produce milk. So the baby camel is actually also called a calf. Now, with all of these animals, and including our cows as well, our regular cows are Friesians, they are all mammals, and all mammals produce milk to feed their babies. The main ones that I've gone through here, so the sheep, the buffalo, the goats, and the camels, they can be farmed to produce milk, and sometimes this is used then to feed people. But as I said, all mammals actually produce milk. So I'm going to take you through some examples of mammals that produce milk, but only to feed their babies. So we don't farm them to actually produce milk. So this is a humpback whale here, and this animal actually produces milk to feed its baby as well. And their babies are known as calves, and they actually feed their babies underwater. So whales, again, they produce milk to feed their babies. Then we have bats here. Their babies are known as pups. So similar to what you would call your dog. And they also produce milk to feed their babies. And then finally, this is a well-known example of an animal that we keep on farms here in Ireland, but we never ever milk this animal for humans. So usually we just have pigs to produce pork, but they do actually also feed their babies milk. So milk is a very, very important food source for all babies. Even human babies drink milk from their mothers when they're born, and it helps to give them a lot of energy so that they can grow and be very, very strong. Now we'll go into a bit more detail here about the part of the animal where the milk is stored. So it's probably familiar to some of you, maybe it's brand new to others. This is called the udder here, and this is where the milk is stored before we extract it with a milking machine. Down below, you'll see these bits hanging down. There are 4 of them on cows, and they are called teat. And this is the part of the animal that the milking machine gets attached to. And I'll actually be showing you this in greater detail when we get onto our educational video. But each one of these teat is connected to a particular chamber inside the udder, and the milk comes out of that chamber through the teat, either into the calf's mouth or then, of course, into the milking machine. So that's the udder and the teat of a cow. But how do cows actually make milk? So this goes back through to the transfer of energy through a system. So if we start over here with the sun is very warm. It contains lots and lots of energy, and its energy then gets absorbed by grass, and this allows the grass to grow really nice and strong and healthy, full of protein and other nutrients that our cows need. Then when the cow eats the grass, it uses all of this energy that it gets from the grass to then produce milk. Before we get straight into the milk into the glass, we extract the milk from the cow here through a milking parlor machine. And then after that, we do have to bring it through a process to make it clean and healthy for people to drink. And this is known as pasteurization. So I'll be going through that in more detail through the educational video. But we must make sure that milk is safe for people to drink. So that is where the processing comes into place. So if you had a cow at home and you were to milk it by hand and drink it straight away, you might be risking getting sick. And this is particularly dangerous for young people and young children because, of course, your immune system, it might not be as developed as an older adult, and you have to be very, very careful. So we need to make sure that we clean the milk through pasteurization before we drink it. So like I said, we get milk from our cows, it comes out of the udder, and we get to process it, and through pasteurization, then we can bottle it and create milk. But there are also lots of other dairy products. So remember, a dairy product is anything that is produced from milk. And I have some examples here. We have yogurt, which is made from milk. We have ice cream, which is made from milk, and of course, a bit of cream as well. Then we have chocolate. So there's lots of different things that can be added to chocolate. There are, of course, cocoa beans, but we also use milk and we use sugar and other things to create chocolate. And then up here, I have butter. So butter is actually made from cream. Cream and milk come out of the cow at the same time out of its udder, but the cream, it can separate because it's a bit thicker, and it actually rises to the top when you milk a cow. And then when we get that cream, we can then process it to make butter. So let's have a look at the story of milk. I have a short video to show you.
This is the story of milk, from grass to glass. Milk is produced by mammals. The cow is a very well-known producer of milk. They make milk to feed their calves and to feed people. Farmers used to milk their cows by hand, but this can be very dangerous. Cows are very large animals. Nowadays, we use big machines to milk our cows. Let's take a closer look at what's going on here. First, the farmer must squeeze out the milk to make sure that it looks healthy. They're looking to make sure that it's not a strange colour and doesn't have any funny lumps. Then they clean each teat to get rid of any germs. It's very important that we don't add extra germs to our milking machine. Next, they attach a part of the milking machine called the cluster to each one of the cow's teat. The cluster will lightly squeeze the teat to extract the milk from the cow's udder. The milk gets stored in a big fridge. This keeps it cool and stops germs from growing. A truck with a milk tank on the back comes to collect the milk and bring it to the creamery. At the creamery, the milk gets pasteurized. This heats the milk to 72 degrees to kill dangerous bacteria. This is not quite as hot as your kettle, but pretty close. The milk is then put into bottles or cartons to be sent to the shop where it is purchased by you or your family. And that is the story of how milk gets from grass to glass. Thanks for watching.
Now, so that is everything that I have to show you for the introduction to dairy and the story of milk. So I'm just going to have a little quick check on the Q&A just to make sure everyone's doing all right. Oh no, I think some people are maybe having a little bit of technical difficulty. I know with things like webinars, the internet connection has to be particularly strong. Okay, everybody seems to be all right. Lovely. And so the next thing that I've got to show you is, of course, our interactive activity. So at this stage, I know that it was quite difficult to perhaps collect all the resources needed. So this can perhaps just be a demonstration. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to show you a very simple recipe to make banana milkshakes. If you don't have the tools you need at the moment, don't worry. You can carry this out later at home yourself. It is Friday after all. You have the whole weekend. Or alternatively, your teacher might like to do this with you next week in class, perhaps. So let's get our resources ready. So I, of course, when we were doing a dairy webinar, I had to have some milk. So I have some milk here in a jar. So if you're doing the work along with me, this is just about 100 to 150 mils of milk inside a jar. Or alternatively, you could have it in a wide neck bottle. So that is our milk here. And the only other ingredients that we are going to need to make our banana milkshakes are about half a tablespoon of honey, which I've got here. And I have about 2 tablespoons of banana here, just already separated and mashed. So very, very simple. In my glass jar with the milk, this is whole milk. So this is milk that hasn't had any of the fat reduced in it. And this is the best kind of milk to use to make a milkshake because you want it to be as creamy as possible. If you had this at home and you had some cream also, you can add a tablespoon or 2 of cream into it. And when we shake it to make our milkshake, it'll thicken it up. So just for anyone who is working along with me, I've just got my milk inside my jar here, and I'm going to open up the lid so I can insert both my banana and my honey. So 2 tablespoons of banana going in now. Mine was pre-mashed. We're just going to pop that into the milk. Make sure that your banana is quite ripe because then it'll be slightly sweeter. So with bananas, if the skin looks a little bit speckly brown, you usually know that it's quite ripe. If it's very yellow or green, it's not ripe enough. Now we're going to add in our honey. There's our honey added in, so just half a tablespoon of honey. And before we move on to the next step, there's a few questions that are after popping on here, so let's just check and see. Lovely, everyone's okay. So then the last step for making your banana milkshake at home is you're going to pop your lid back on and make sure that you have a leak-proof container. So you don't want to use something such as a plastic Tupperware that doesn't have any rubber around the outside because that might make it spill. So inside this glass jar, it's kind of perfect, but of course it is glass. You have to be very, very careful. And we're just going to shake it. And you're going to keep shaking it until you can't see honey or banana at the bottom. And because I'm using whole milk, so it hasn't had any of the fat removed, it should be a bit more rich and a bit more creamy than, say, a skimmed milk. Just keep shaking until all the honey in the banana looks like it's dissolved. Now, so all my banana and my honey has been dissolved. And if you made it in a glass jar like myself, you can then just drink it out of your glass jar. So it smells delicious. Again, if you were doing it at home, if you add a tablespoon or 2 of cream into it, it'll make it a bit thicker again. That is our very, very simple banana milkshake. I'm going to leave that to the side and I'll enjoy that in just a little while. Oh, somebody missed what I was doing. That's okay. So all we put in here, I'm just going to repeat what the ingredients were just for you guys at home. So there was 100 to 150 mils of milk. Then I just added in 2 tablespoons of banana, half a tablespoon of honey, and then I just gave it a shake to make all of the ingredients mix really, really well together. So very, very simple. Some of you might have worked along with me. If you did, you can let me know. So your teachers have the instructions and the ingredients list for that very simple milkshake. So if you do want to try it at home, just make sure that you ask them and they will be able to tell you exactly what you need. Now it is time for our quiz challenger question. So the way this is going to work is if you can write down the question and you can write down your answer. And then at the very end of all the webinars on the 10th of December, your teacher can submit all of your answers online, and then you can be put into a draw to win a trip to Dublin Zoo. So I have my quiz challenger question here. I've got it on this lovely card. So your first quiz challenger question is, which animal is not farmed for milk? Whales, cows, or goats? Now I'm going to say it again. Which animal is not farmed for milk? Whales, cows, or goats? So that is our first quiz challenger question. As I said, there will be 10 more over the next few webinar series coming up. So the next one coming up is going to be all about sheep, and your teachers will be receiving instructions about that shortly. And in the future, you'll be getting all the instructions and the resources lists 1 week in advance, just to make sure that everyone has time to collect everything that they need. Now I've got a question here, 1 second. There is a question from the Queen of Angels. Is it painful for the cow when she gets milked? So that's a great question. So it is very, very gentle. The machine just lightly pulses the cow's teat. So it's not pulling or yanking, it's just lightly pulsing on their teat to extract the milk. So once a cow has had a baby, has had a calf, they will start producing milk naturally. This is just the natural way that their bodies would work. Once they've had a baby, they start to produce milk. We get some of that milk as people, and also they produce that milk purely to add nutritious energy to their calves as well. So when we're pulsing on the teat with the milking machine, it's very gentle. It's not pulling in any way, so it's not hurting the animal. Now, we actually have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions before I give you any more information. How long does it take to make the milk clean and safe to drink? Great question. So with pasteurization, so in the video, we learned that we heat the milk up to 72 degrees, and we must keep the milk at 72 degrees for 15 seconds. And that will make sure that any dangerous bacteria is killed off. So 15 seconds is how long we need to keep it at that hot temperature. And then we cool it down so that it will then be put into a fridge and kept for people to drink. Oh, lots of questions coming in here now. Is it dangerous to milk a cow by hand? Brilliant question. Yes, it can be very dangerous. So in the video, I had mentioned that cows are very large animals. They're very, very large. And if you stand anywhere near their back legs, you're running the risk that they might accidentally kick you. So you have to be very, very careful. You shouldn't really milk a cow by hand. You should always use a milking machine that has lots of extra protection measures. So in milking parlors, there's usually bars between the cow's legs and the farmer's face to make sure that the animal can't kick back and hurt you in any way. So you have to be really, really careful, and you should not milk a cow by hand. How long does it take to milk each cow? So that depends. It depends on the cow, but it really does depend. It can be quite quick, but usually a process, if you're going to milk each cow, I would imagine, I'm going to estimate here, it'll probably be between 5 and 7 minutes per cow. I'm going to I'll take 3 more questions. Ooh, some questions I don't know the answer to. How many different animals are milked on Earth? I don't know the answer to that, but that's maybe a good one that you guys could investigate with your teacher. How much milk can one cow hold? So that depends entirely on their breed. So I had shown an example of the black and white cow, a Holstein cow. So they can probably hold more milk than a smaller cow. So Holsteins would be, a medium to large milking animal. And then another one, an example of a breed would be a Jersey cow. So they're a much smaller cow and they would hold less. So it just depends on what type of cow, what type of breed they are, and that'll tell you how much milk they produce. Okay, let's go with one more question. At what age can you milk a cow? That's a great question. So as soon as a cow has had a calf, then you can start milking them and they can start going to the milking parlor. So typically, a cow will start having a calf after the age of 1. So it depends again on the breed and the individual animal. Some dairy animals, maybe the farmer might think they won't necessarily be a very good mother and they might have to wait till they're a bit more mature. But it does kind of depend, but they'd have to be over the age of 1. Great. So I think that's all of the questions that we have time for. And I really appreciated you guys interacting with me there. That was absolutely great. So the next webinar is going to be next Friday at 11 a.m. again. And that is going to be all about sheep. So your teachers will be receiving instructions about that. I'd say by Monday, if not by the end of today for sure. So we've got another exciting activity. And of course, your second quiz challenger question will be revealed at the end. And again, make sure that you keep track of all of the quiz challenger questions that I reveal at the end of the webinar so you can enter to win a trip to Dublin Zoo. Okay, everyone, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I'll see you next week. Bye.